Alright guys, can everybody hear me okay? Alright. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody for coming. I am shockingly quite nervous about this. I don't know why. I imagine it has something to do with the fact that I haven't done a con in quite some time now, so my public speaking skills, heck, my normal speaking skills feel like they've probably atrophied a little bit. But yeah, here we are. This is actually something I've been wanting to do for quite a while. And what better time to give it a shot than in the midst of a pandemic? So here we are. For those of you who are just joining in and maybe don't quite know what's going on today, I'll put my hands here so you guys can at least see something for the time being. Um, Basically, what we're doing today for this inaugural stream is I'm going to be doing a complete Bruce illustration, or Batman, depending on how you like to refer to him as. And at the end of it, I will be choosing one lucky Twitch follower to give it away to. Just seemed like a nice way to get a lot of people get the butts in the seats, as you will. So yeah, I'm really excited to give it a shot, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. So I guess I'll give like a few more minutes to see, you know, give some more people a chance to get in here before we get started. So in the meantime, do you guys have any questions or concerns or anything like that that you'd like to ask me in the interim? And if not, that's totally okay. Like, I'm definitely not sure how great I'll be at juggling both looking at chat and looking at my drawing table, which I apologize for how dirty it is. It's a really odd it's a really odd combination of I like the patina because it's kind of like a roadmap of all the work I've ever done, but it actively gets it actively gets in the way of a lot of work sometimes, because as you can see, a lot of this is basically horizon lines and figuring out vanishing points that go off the page. Um, and when you've got all these going and you're trying to do fresh ones, sometimes you forget which one is the vanishing point that you're working on, and you end up doing a bunch of incorrect drawing and have to redo everything. So that sucks. But yeah, maybe one of these days I'll take a scraper to this and clean this all off. I don't know, but in the meantime, it's definitely my drawing table. You know what I mean? But oh, Chai Wright asks, what music do I listen to while I draw? That is an excellent question. And to be like every other person since, I don't know, 2004, the answer is all kinds. In fact, I've actually linked, or I've tried to link, I don't know if it works, my Spotify to the stream. So you can actually kind of see what I'm listening to while I'm streaming, because I'd love to play music during the stream, but if anyone's even remotely followed Twitch the last couple weeks, you would know that that's become like a huge problem with DMCA's and everything like that. I actually currently have my headphones on and I'm listening to my Spotify um, in my headphones. And right now I'm actually listening to what I call my SCAD mix. I attended SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design, in Savannah, Georgia, and a couple of years ago, I just slapped together a giant playlist of a bunch of songs that were really popular or special to me and my friends during that time. And since I created JL8 pretty freshly out of SCAD, it seemed like a kind of appropriate thing to be listening to while I work. But generally, it veers into like pop punk, indie music, post rock, occasionally like a soundtrack, electronica. It just really depends, kind of what I'm feeling. for the day. Yes, Sean, occasionally I will listen to Hybrid Theory while I work, mainly if I'm working on like a Dragon Ball illustration or something. But no Hybrid Theory currently. Dunern says, "Hey man, just wanted to say that I found your page this week and I'm going through all the jail stuff from the start. In the point right after Diana's party. Looking forward to reading all the strips. I want to say great work." Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's always cool to know that people are still discovering. Oh, Sean got booted. Sean's an old friend of mine from high school. Nightbot. Nightbot booted him for spamming. I just, if you knew him, you would know how funny that is. But yeah, it's great to know that people are still discovering JL8 fresh even after all these years, and also enjoying it. But anyway, I'm talking a lot. People aren't here to just listen to me talk. So what do you say that we actually get started with this drawing thing? Does that sound good to everybody? Sean is not a douche. I will be very clear about that. Sean is one of my closest friends. Chef, who are you? Oh, what's up, Mark? How's it going, bud? Of course you'd be calling Sean a douche. All right, but enough of this inside baseball stuff. Let's actually get some art made, okay? All right. So first things first. Um, this is my sheet of paper. It's a 9 by 12. This is generally what I do commissions on. It's just kind of a convenient size for mainly to take to conventions, um, but it also just seems like a good size for take home commissions as well. The kind of paper it is. First of all, it's Bristol. Ikaroto, thank you so much for the follow. This is Strathmore Bristol 300 series. You've probably seen it before if you've ever gone to any kind of art supply store. It's pretty common. It comes in like a yellow pad with a graphite drawing on the cover. I choose the Vellum finish. A lot of my friends use smooth. Vellum is kind of like a toothier finish. There's not really any artistic reason I like that. I just kind of like the way it feels as I work on it. Um, and yeah, that's really all that there is to be discussing about the paper. So next up, I will be talking about my pencils. Now, usually I use a Prismacolor blue pencil, which I actually, the only ones I have on my desk right now are these tiny little nubs. Not sure if you guys can see that all that well. And that's mainly a holdover from my animation background. In animation, we use a lot of basically colored pencils, and I just kind of like the way it looks. For me, I feel like it doesn't tire the eye out quite as quickly as a grayscale pencil does. I feel like gray kind of gets a little muddy over time, and blue isn't quite that way. So that's generally why I use a blue pencil. But since today we're going to be coloring IRL, as it were, uh, the blue kind of fights with markers a little bit. So I went to the art store yesterday and got a couple of graphite pencils. I actually haven't really tried these out at all, but I mean, aside from sort of scribbling some stuff at the art supply store, which I got these from Art Mart off Hanley, if you're in the St. Louis area, great local art supply store. And I got a couple different, for those who aren't familiar, art pencils come in varying, basically hardnesses. And the harder the pencil, the lighter the line, the softer the pencil, the darker the line, etc., etc., etc. And I figured a harder pencil would be good for something like this because it's going to be an underdrawing. I'm planning to erase it. But because we're streaming, who knows how well... Millie Kaisla, thank you so much for the follow. De Fuerza, also thank you for the follow. This BJO12, thank you for the follow. I'm really sorry if I'm going to be missing a lot of follows and stuff. It's kind of difficult as opposed to like streaming a video game or something where you're looking at the screen the entire time. But basically, yeah, so I grabbed a couple different hardnesses of pencil because I was worried that maybe the hardness that I would like wouldn't show up on camera all that well. But I think we're going to start off with a 4H, which is the hardest and theoretically the lightest of the pencils. And if we're having trouble seeing that on the screen, we'll adjust accordingly. So one of the things I do to get started when I work on a commission or just an illustration is I'll rule out, also this is a ruler I like to use a lot. It's actually a fashion ruler, I think, but I like the fact that you can see through it. So I really gravitate towards these rulers. RW Conspiracy, thank you so much for the follow. And basically what I'll do is I'll kind of line out a loose border that really is more of a compositional element than anything. It kind of helps me know how to sort of center the drawing on the page, which you certainly don't need your drawings to always be centered. But a lot of times, for the stuff I do, it tends to look best that way. All right, yeah, that's super not showing, super not showing up. So let's kick this up all the way to the F. And honestly, if this border doesn't show up, that really doesn't matter a whole lot to me. But we definitely want the sketch illustration to be showing up. So let's try this one more time. Also, please forgive the audio. I'm just using my webcam mic. I don't know if it's super terrible by Twitch standards or not. Poet Ronan, thank you so much for the follow. Oh my gosh, that's my 200th follower. Holy cow. That's awesome. All right, so now we've got the border lined out, which, yeah, you can see that a little bit better. So from here, we basically start the drawing. Now, I'm not going to lie, Mackenzie Serenity, thank you so much for the follow. Last night, I did kind of work out what I wanted to do with the drawing. Excuse me. So I'm not doing this completely from my head. I kind of went through my sketchbook and roughed out a couple different poses and was like, okay, I think I want to do this one. So I guess I kind of cheated a little bit. But anyway, here we go. So we're going to draw Bruce. Now, I kind of like to sort of, this you definitely probably are not going to be able to see, but I kind of like to give, basically like block in where I think he's going to be, so I don't think that, excuse me, so that he doesn't end up, you know, like with one foot totally off the page or, you know, something like that. So we're going to do a super rough, super loose underdrawing. like I said, you guys probably aren't going to be able to see this part because I can barely see it. It's kind of weird to be listening to Sexy Back while drawing this, but that's what popped up in my on my playlist. It was a popular song back when I was in high school. Not high school, college. I mean, who doesn't love JT? My body might be a little bit small, or not small, a little bit big. I think that's pretty much all I really need to kind of get started. Alright, so when I start in earnest, basically one of the first things I do is I'll bust out my circle template just to kind of, it's just an easy way to lay down a big old dome, and especially because the JL8 kids, their heads are so round, it's just kind of easier to have a perfect circle to kind of start off with. Alright, so from there, we're gonna lay down a center line to kind of have an idea of, well, the center of Bruce's face. And I actually really like to start with the nose because it's such a central part of someone's facial structure. It's kind of like a nice landmark to lay in that you can sort of like build the face out from, as it were. So we'll drop his nose in first. And then from there, I'll do the eyes. And there's a lot of like cross contour stuff going on to kind of help me make sure everything is on the same plane. You know, so you don't have one eye like way up here, the other one way down here, which that wouldn't happen, but you'd be surprised at how even really minor, I mean, we're talking like millimeter distances, can really throw a drawing way off the mark. Especially something like how the JL8 characters are designed. Also, I flip my paper around a lot, so hopefully that doesn't bother anybody. But probably one of the most important things that I've heard recently regarding art is like, you got to do what's comfortable for you. So like, I'm not gonna try to make a mark at an uncomfortable angle if I don't have to. You know what I mean? I'll give Adam Hughes credit for that because that's where I heard it from. I was watching one of his videos on Copic Markers, trying to, you know, gain some tips and tricks. Agent X, thank you so much for the follow. And yes, it's one of those kind of like bits of wisdom that you sort of already intrinsically know, but you never quite gave word to. Growler V, thank you so much for the follow. And even though you don't see Bruce's ears, I like to draw them in there because it gives me a decent, again, kind of like a landmark for how to pull back his cranium. Because as I imagine most of you know, your head kind of goes further back than your face. Or than your ears, I guess I should say. So you kind of pull it past that initial circle that I laid down. And I'll bring down his tiny little neck. Excuse me. Start building the cowl on him a little bit. Give him some angry eyes, because Bruce is always agitated. And also just kind of looks cooler. And actually I think his jaw is a little too big here. So I'm going to tone that down a little bit. Actually, I'm not sure. And I've got, you'll notice art pencils generally don't don't have an eraser on it. So I got this little stick eraser. I got all kinds of erasers, but I like using that one for stuff like that. Let's see. I'm trying to decide if this is looking right or not. Actually, because it is an upshot, his jaw would be a little bit more pronounced, because you're kind of seeing like the underside of it. Catcher Freak, thank you so much for the follow. Appreciate having you here. I'll build out his little nubby ears, because Bruce in JL8 doesn't have terribly big bat ears. No Kelly Jones designs here, which is not a knock against Kelly Jones. I want to be very clear about that. Kelly Jones is awesome. Tim Sale does big bat ears too, and they also look great. Also, I'm very sorry if you guys can hear my dog barking. We must be getting mail, because he's going like really hard right now. I'm not sure if you can hear it. And boy, he does not like the mailman. And it's weird, because like he's met the mailman. Like I've taken him outside, and he's met the mailman a couple times. And when he meets the mailman, he seems to really like them. But yeah, when they show up to actually deliver the mail, it's get off my lawn. Road Night Stalker, thank you so much for the follow. All right, so we got a little Bruce noggin here. Also, sorry for kind of. Oh, Will, thank you so much for the donation, man. That's really kind of you. I feel really bad. I wasn't able to read the comment attached to it. But yeah, man, thank you so much. Yes, my dog's name is Niles. My wife and I are pretty big Frasier fans. Kano Cafe? I hope it's Kano Cafe, like Mortal Kombat Kano. But anyway, thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate it. All right, so let's add in Bruce's chubby little body here. Don't tell him I said that. All right, so generally I like to kind of rough in like the rib cage. And also, like when you're drawing, there are things we call them line of action. I'm not great at explaining it, but it's kind of like stuff that sort of indicates the way that the body's moving, or the way the legs are moving, the way the arms are moving, things like that. It's kind of a good compositional thing. Um, there are people who are way better. Like I'm sure Jim Lee explains it a lot better than I could. Um, but it is something that's pretty important. So, you know, keep that in mind. Okay, Wizard, thank you so much. I should really set up like a different sound for donations because I think I'm. Have I missed a bunch? Because if that's the case, I feel really bad because I definitely want to make sure to be thanking people for that. Oh, you did? That's that's really cool. He is a very cute dog. We're very happy to have him in our lives, even though sometimes he can be a bit of a handful. But you know, he's not even 2 years old yet, so it's kind of unreasonable for me to expect anything else. And another things that you kind of want to do is like, or at least I like to do, is kind of like layer the musculature. Even though the JL8 kids aren't like super ripped or anything, like everyone has musculature. And it does kind of help define the way certain parts of your body appear, even if you're not shredded like Stallone or Schwarzenegger or something like that. Which goes to show my age, because I imagine younger people, maybe they're referencing like UFC fighters for stuff like that or something now. But no, I'm a I'm a '90s kid, so anything revolving around fit people. Kelvin the Elder, thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate that. Please enjoy the stream. I'm already having a lot of fun working on it. Alright, so we're going to foreshorten this leg. And in case anybody's not familiar with what foreshortening is, it's basically when something's like coming at you in space. Like, here's my pencil, just looking at it. And then if you do this, you'll notice it gets a lot shorter. It's just a way to show volume and depth and all that kind of stuff. Yes, pro wrestlers is a reference. Of course you would say so, Dave. You love your wrestling. Wrestling. As you guys can tell, like I work pretty sketchy in the pencil phase. Like I'm really basically just like feeling stuff out. Um, there are some people that don't work this way and they have like really confident doom 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 doom, you know, like very kind of confident singular line work. Um, I'm just personally not that way. And there's no right or wrong way. Like I was saying earlier, you just gotta figure out what works best for you. I don't work Greg Capullo loose though. That's a whole other level of loose. BK Sutton, thank you so much for the follow. Oh, this is one of my favorite songs that just came up on my playlist. The Futureheads cover of Hounds of Love. I love this song. This is such a good song. Oh. Sounds of love are calling. And for anyone that might be unfamiliar, it's a cover of a Kate Bush song. I'm not 100% sure if I'm feeling this leg, so I'm going to kind of move around the drawing and possibly come back to it at a later date. I do know I can get started on his utility belt. And I will be 2 steps on the water. I really like the pocket belt design, but man, it is a lot harder to draw. Not harder is not necessarily the right word, just more time consuming to draw than basically just the yellow band belt, which basically like how the animated series design was initially conceived before they went to the new look stuff. Because one of the things that's really important about design, actually, you know what? Let me fix that. Is a term called pencil mileage, which basically the idea is like if you calculated essentially the distance of your drawing. So like, okay, this is like an inch. This line, if you straighten it out, would be like 3 inches. Like that's your pencil mileage. And obviously, the more lines on a drawing, the more your pencil mileage would become. And in animation, that's a really big deal, is making sure that your pencil mileage is manageable, because you got to draw that stuff in traditional animation anyway, hand-drawn animation. You got to draw that thing 12 times for a single second, maybe more, as many as 24 times for a single second of footage. That's a lot of drawings. And, you know, work smarter, not harder. Which is also kind of why, like, I'm not crazy about doing commissions for, like, video game characters, like, modern video game characters, because that stuff's all 3D modeled. So you can put way more detail on, like, a Gears of War character than you would if you had to draw all that stuff by hand. And, you know, a good example is, like, look at Cuphead. Those character designs aren't terribly detailed because they did all that by hand. This is another great song, Daylight by Aesop Rock. Aesop Rock is incredible if you guys aren't familiar with his work and you like underground hip-hop. That is, even if you don't like underground hip-hop, if you just like music, he is someone that you should definitely check out. Alright, this leg might be a little long, but I think it kind of works. Because one of the difficult things with the JL8 kids is like their proportions aren't great for anything other than standing around. So sometimes when you get into like the more actiony stuff, you gotta kind of fudge it a little bit. By which I just mean, you know, maybe extend it a little bit more than what the character model would indicate it could do, kind of thing. Actually, you know what? I think this leg's looking okay. So we'll kind of tighten that up a little bit. Make sure it's not gonna look super wonky or something. Big old feet. I kind of wish I would have given the kids bigger hands, bigger feet, kind of almost like puppy dog proportions. There's actually a lot I'd sort of like to go back and sort of redo about the JL8 character designs. Not that I think that they're bad or anything. I think they work really well for what they are. But I think I could have had maybe a little bit more fun with them. make sure I'm not missing a bunch of stuff. Oh, good. I'm sorry. I'm like just now looking at chat. I'm glad to see a lot of people are down with Aesop Rock. Apparently, he actually has a new album out that I haven't yet checked out. Which I'll admit, I get really weird about music when somebody does something that's like exceptionally good, because his last solo effort, Impossible Kid, was so amazing that I'm not really sure how he could ever top it. So I get kind of reticent to check out new stuff. Like, for the longest time, I wouldn't listen to a new Godspeed You Black Emperor record after Lift Your Skinny Fists, because I was like, there's no way they could do something better than this. Same with like Explosions in the Sky, their album The Earth Is Not a Cold Dead Place, the Weaker Thans with Reunion Tour. That happens to me a lot. I really need to get over it because I end up missing out on a lot of great music. Brand New with The Devil and God Are Raging Inside Me. But anyway, yeah, it's just like a weird little personal quirk of mine that I decided to share. Corvette 1710, thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate it. What do you think about that new mid-engine model? I've always felt kind of weird about Corvettes ever since they got rid of the quad taillights. I feel like that was a really important part of the Corvette design aesthetic. I feel like they almost look more like Vipers now. Jerfy Jerf, thank you so much. Oh, Adam, I was saying Explosions in the Sky, their album, The Earth Is Not a Cold Dead Place. I felt like it was so good that it really disincentivized me from listening to any of their other stuff. And it was years before I decided to give any of their other albums a shot. Which is great because I ended up going and seeing them in concert. Man, what was that? Maybe 2 or 3 years ago, whenever they released their album The Wilderness. And let me tell you, that was a concert. Like that was like a religious experience. I couldn't believe that show. That was incredible. Although there was a guy there with his girlfriend, and when they started going to Your Hand in Mine, I heard him lean over and was like, "Oh, this is like their big, this is a song that like all the people that don't actually like their music like. It's like their sellout song. It's not even that good." I I had to just let that one go because I wasn't about to get kicked out of that show for punching that dude in his stupid mouth. Although I think he probably deserved it. I actually told one of my buddies about that story, and that's probably the closest I've ever seen to someone doing an actual spit take. Like, he just could not believe that someone would say something like that about that song. Alright, so let's see what we're going to do with this hand here. Sid Nick, thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate that. Should I come up with like a tagline for my stream, like "Welcome to the Ivy Leagues" or something? That's more just me wanting to let you know that I like to make bad jokes. I'm trying to figure out how this hand would work. I actually love drawing hands. I know a lot of people really hate drawing hands, but even though I like to draw them doesn't mean I know exactly how to draw them every time. Ooh, another good song, Plus 44. Little lesser known band. It's a little side project that Mark Hoppus and Travis Barker engaged in back in like 2007. And I'm an unapologetic Blink-182 pop punk fan. So, right up my alley. Oh yeah, no, okay, Wizard. This is basically one of the big reasons I am streaming. Is I'll be streaming both my work process on my new creator own thing, and I'll also be streaming me working on the new JL8 update because it's so big. Um, Growler, I would have beat that dude senseless. I am I am a very big Led Zeppelin fan as well. I've actually got like way more than their regular discography because St. Louis actually has some very awesome record stores that were great at getting like bootleg concert recordings and outtake stuff. So I've actually got some literally sitting right here next to my desk and a box full of albums I still need to get around to. I buy music the way I buy pretty much everything. But like books, I buy way more at a time than I probably should, and end up not getting around to everything. So I've been trying to put the stuff that I haven't yet given a shake to in a specific area. So when I'm about to go out and buy a bunch of new stuff, I can look at the pile and be like, oh, okay. Technically, those are all new because I actually haven't listened to any of them yet. Not sure how I feel about that hand. Oh, yeah, no, it's never gonna be, it's never gonna return to being called Little League, which is unfortunate because I fully acknowledge that's a better title. But Little League baseball did not care for that, so they made sure that I stopped calling it that. All right, what do I want to do with this hand? Um, The Mushroom 13, thank you so much for the follow. Sorry that you're following in the brief minute that I'm kind of struggling with what I'm trying to do with a specific Blunder Dome. What's up, Zach? Oh, I'm the same way. I like plus 44 way better than Boxcar or Angels and Airwaves as well. I also love that emo stuff. I don't care. I love that stuff. Ah, man. What do I want to do with this hand? I'll figure it out while I draw the cape. Alright, there we go. Well, that didn't help any. Oh yeah, sorry. I think people are asking like if this will be recorded and saved anywhere. Yeah, I am recording it currently. It'll both be in the archives, and I'll probably be uploading it to YouTube as well for anybody that either missed it or just wants to rewatch it. D-Rock, thank you so much for the follow. Really appreciate it. An acoustic cover of Hey Ya just showed up on my stream, and this is like the most potent take me back to college songs I've probably got on this mix. There was a lot of dudes with acoustic guitars. There we go, I think we'll do that. Miss Loved Chi, or Chai, thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate that. Also, I'm sorry if I've gotten a little bit quiet. I'm kind of starting to focus a little bit more. I generally like that, but I think I can do it better, so if at first you don't succeed. Odaka 2, thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate that. Alright, so middle finger. Yeah, I think that works. I think we'll go with that. All right, I want to add the bat logo. Pandy, what's up, buddy? Good to see you, bud. Is Benji watching too? Is there a schedule yet? Yes, there actually. It's a tentative schedule. Obviously, I'm new at this, so I'm kind of trying to figure out what uh, what works for me and everything. But yeah, it's currently, I want to say 2 to 6, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and I think 2 to 5 on Tuesdays, just because I have something I do in Tuesday evenings, kind of around 6 o'clock. So, and again, that it's tentative, um, but that's what I'm shooting for this upcoming week. And if it works, awesome. If it doesn't, I'll go back to the drawing board, and figure something out that works better for me. All right. Well, truth be told, I think that this is pretty much all I need to get started with inks. So I think we're gonna move to that. So let me set my pencil down. I'm gonna tape this up right here. Get myself a quick little drink of water. Gotta try and stay hydrated. And actually, I'll take a quick minute. Let me take a look at chat and maybe answer some questions and stuff like that for a couple minutes. Yeah, I should really add a command for the coloring books. Basically, what they are is they're just line art PDFs that I have available on gumroad.com. L Red Wine, thank you so much for the follow. And basically, they're just pay what you want, and you can print them out on your home computer and color them however you feel like. Or you could even save the line art file and color it digitally if you so preferred. How long did I practice at drawing the characters before I felt confident to publish them? Not at all. I basically just jumped right into it and decided, well, because originally, like, I wasn't planning on publishing this. It was meant to be kind of like a little personal project that I would share among my friends. So I wasn't feeling particularly precious about it. So eventually I did a handful of them, and I had friends who convinced me to make them publicly available. And I'm not gonna go back and redraw everything. And at the time I didn't think they looked bad. I don't think they look great now. I'll tell you that much. But yeah, I kind of just jumped right into it. It's a good question, though. Oh, that's a sweet sentiment. You still are sharing with all your friends. I appreciate that. So in the meantime, I'm going to shake up my drawing ink. Usually I use Higgins Black Magic. I guess that this is Speedball that I got in here. Ink is really finicky. Um, oh yeah, I've got a bunch of commands other than tools. Isn't there a way to just kind of like look up what all commands are available? Is the focus really bad? Well, anyway, I'm not trying to waste anybody's time, so so what I'm doing right now, you can't see it, but I've got my inking brush that I'm currently dipping in water to basically kind of like prime it for the ink because brushes basically they're thirsty. So if you just go straight into the ink, a lot of that ink will just soak up into the brush and won't you'll have to keep re-dipping more regularly. So I like to start out by wetting the brush pretty thoroughly before starting. And for those who are interested, I have a tools command to look at all my tools. But basically, what I use is a Winsor and Newton Series 7 number 2 Kolinsky Sable brush, which is pretty standard among comic artists. Um, I personally enjoy it. I've kind of been shopping around for a different brush lately, but not so much that I wouldn't recommend the Winsor and Newton. So basically, yeah, here it is in case you. But yeah, so now basically we just start inking. There's not really any rhyme or reason. I just kind of go over here into my inkwell. If you are inking with a brush, you don't want to dip it all the way down to the ferrule, which is basically like uh, where the hairs come out of the brush. You kind of want to go about like 75%. And then I'll drag it across my scratch pad over here, which you probably can't. You can kind of see it poking in the corner of the screen. But it's basically a way to kind of like sharpen your tip before going in. I think it's the angle of the camera because it's kind of tilted a little bit. All right, so here we go. Got to make a big decision. That was a Bob Ross joke for anyone that didn't get it, the big decision bit. That's a little thin for my taste, so I'm actually gonna beef that up. I will admit, usually when I ink, I get pretty close in there with my head. So I'm kind of trying to stay back so you guys can actually see what I'm doing. and that's going to kind of make things a little tricky. Oh yeah, I mean Winsor and Newton's been around for a long time, and they've generally been considered an industry standard the entire that entire period. Oh no, you're not backseat drawn. It's a fair question. But yeah, generally when I ink, I do like to start with basically bigger areas and work my way to the more detailed stuff. Just because, you know, it's kind of like a warm up period. And if you're gonna make a mistake up here, it's just usually a lot easier to kind of deal with. Now, one of the things about brush inking is like you're not really looking at the tip. You kind of just end up developing a sense for where the tip is, and drawing accordingly. And that's just something I've noticed, and I could see how it would maybe throw a beginner off. So I figured it's worth mentioning. Bless your soul. Control. Sorry, Crazy by Nels Barkley came on my playlist, so I was kind of singing along there for a second. Now, an important thing about inking, and there are many people who are much better than I am at this, but is varying your line weights. Or at least brush inking. I mean, there's an entire style of inking called Ligne Claire out of France, which is like what Mobius and Jeff Darrow and those guys use, where it's basically like a dead line the whole way through. But I love having nice juicy line weights. I think it works really well with the way I draw. And that's another important thing. Like, you kind of have to figure out what works best for what you do. Which doesn't, certainly don't like pigeonhole yourself. But you might find certain coloring styles work better on your work than others. Certain rendering styles. All these things. Oh, yeah. Got some DANC by Justice. God, what a banger. Stone Cold classic. In regards to smearing, you may have just been overloading your brush. Oh yeah, Cross. That whole album's a masterpiece. But yeah, I mean, like you do need to be careful. brush inking tends to dry quicker than nib inking. But yeah, I mean, I try not to just like straight drag my hand over anything that I've immediately inked right away. But like I said, generally it dries pretty quickly. So it may just be a matter of, like I said, overloading your brush. All right. Bruce has those thunder thighs. Alright, so this is looking a little wonky. My brush kind of... Oh, see, there's a little bit of a smear. That's fine, though. I'm just kind of going in and smoothing this out a little bit because my brush sort of went a little bit wonky. And also, like, my approach to inking is not everybody's approach to inking. Like, Scott Williams, one of the more famous comic book inkers who almost exclusively inks Jim Lee, he works way faster and goes for a much more like kinetic line, much more dynamic line. So if you guys are looking at me and are like, oh my god, it's so slow, you do not have to do it. You do not have to do it this way. This is just kind of the way I like to do it. Go for a thin line for the boot. Give a little crease line here for his foot. Helps kind of provide some volume. Do a bit fatter one for the kneecap, just because the kneecap's generally more raised. Oh, gotta finish this bit right here. All right, we got a pair of legs. Oh, nose cameo? Yeah, I've got a huge nose. I don't doubt that that'll just pop up at any given time. All right. Oh yeah, no, nib inking, excuse me. I have a real hard time with that. That smears like crazy. Actually, nib inking is the only time I've ever physically thrown one of my tools because I got so heated and bothered with it that I just chucked that thing. Like I was so over it. I've managed to get a little bit better at it. But yeah, it's hard, man. Like it's not easy at all. Now another thing I kind of like to do is I try to reserve my brushwork for organic things, so like the human body, etc. And then like his belt buckle is presumably plastic, right? So in that case, I tend to use a tech pen. This is a Copic Multiliner SP. And you just kind of, it just gives a nice kind of like deadline quality. Dead line, not deadline as in like, oh no, our work is due. And just a reminder, because I need to remember that not everybody's coming here through, or presumably not everybody's coming here through my social media channels. This is my inaugural stream, and at the end of the stream, I will be giving this illustration away to a follower. So if that interests you, please be sure to give me a follow, and you may be the lucky winner. Alright, that's pretty much all I need to do with that for now. So go back to my trusty brush. Also, thank you so much. It seems like people are really engaged in chat on my behalf. Because, yeah, I definitely am not doing the best job of keeping my eye on the feed, but it seems like a lot of people are doing a great job at answering questions and stuff like that, and I really appreciate that. That's awesome. I'm certainly not trying to ignore anybody. It's just, this is obviously very attention intensive. I can't really draw and not look at the paper. Oh, utility belt. Alright, we're getting there. Also, I apologize if my breathing gets weird right now. Most artists that I know, it's almost like, and forgive me if this is offensive to anyone, but it's almost like being a sniper. Like, you kind of just hold your breath to avoid your hand from doing anything you don't want it to. Or at least what Call of Duty has led me to believe what operating as a sniper is like. Alright, thankfully, this is the last pouch. So now that's out of the way. So let's do a nice fat chest line. Just drop that down there. Another tip, if you're trying to look into brush inking, is generally you're pushing away from yourself when you work. Because when I first tried brush inking, I was pulling at myself, and that does not work. So, or at least it doesn't work for me. So, just a little pointer for you. Obviously, none of these tips are guaranteed because everyone is different, but these are the things that kind of work for me. All right, let's go in on this hand. Fingertips might be the trickiest thing to ink for me personally. They can be very fickle. And if you've been away from drawing or inking or whatever long enough, you can kind of feel the things that you've atrophied on, because you do atrophy a little bit. It's like a muscle. You got to really kind of work to keep it in shape. And I was telling a friend of mine, fingertips is one of my dead giveaways that I haven't been inking very much, because like I just forget how to approach them. Aren't cartoonists interesting? These are the things that we discuss. Oh yeah, man, I had a rough day. I couldn't remember how to draw fingertips. Give these little one of those to kind of accentuate the volume of the hand. Yeah, these probably aren't the best fingertips I've ever inked, but they're also not the worst. Honestly, I think some of that might have to do with the fact that I probably need to load my brush up a little bit more to be tackling this stuff. It's running a little bit thin. But there's a hand. Oh yeah, Bruce is definitely my most popular character by far. And you know what I mean, everybody likes Batman. Zach, what did you call out that people are thanking you for calling out? Alright, let's do this arm. Alright. And we'll do the top. Kind of wish that line were a little bit thinner, but we'll survive. All right, just this one. Bit of musculature right there, and boom. Got 75% of his extremities done. Next up, we'll I also hope I'm not veering too far off camera. I'm kind of worrying that I'm pulling the paper to a spot that you guys can't really see it that well. John Dulio, thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate that. Means a lot. Give it one of those. Add a little one of those right there. All right, time to do another hand. Here we go. Fists are a little bit easier. Inking is kind of tactical. You do kind of need to think about where you're going to go, how you want to start, sequencing, stuff like that. Eventually you find yourself like a little rhythm for it. And everybody's is different, and that's okay. One thing I tend to like to do, and I've learned not everybody does this, is I generally like to work from the most foreground element back. Which I kind of did here. I technically, this leg probably would have been the most foreground element because it's pushed the furthest forward, but I started over here. But as you can tell, there's nothing obstructing this leg, whereas this leg is in front of the utility belt and stuff like that. If that helps anybody kind of understand what I'm talking about. Oh, here we go. The ultimate mid-2000s college song. Hey There, Delilah. For those unaware, I've got my headphones on and I'm listening to a kind of like a college era playlist that I made, which I think you should be able to check out in my about page. I tried to like link my Spotify. If you're at all interested, I certainly don't blame anybody if they're not, but I have been talking about it a lot, so should probably at least mention it. All right, that looks good. Gotta reload my brush. I mean, I don't really like the song either, but it reminds me of a pretty great time in my life. So, for that reason alone, I kind of enjoy it. Slowly but surely, we're getting there. I'll admit, I kind of like saving the heads for last, just because that's kind of... It's almost like dessert is like my favorite thing to ink. Most of the time. Not all the time, but I do tend to enjoy it. Alright, let's get those bat fins on there. There we go. Let's do his little delt. All right, cape time. This is our bravery test. Kind of smooth that out a little bit. I really hope everybody knows I'm making these like Bob Ross references. Alright. Add a little, kind of like not a seam, but kind of like a crease. Alright, here we go. Excuse me. All right. Oh yeah, Deja Entendu is an incredible album. That is kind of the other kind of crummy thing about inking. I have to turn away from the mic a lot to dip my pen, or my brush, excuse me, because they are different. They're not the same thing. Arches are hard. But we're almost done. With the cape, that is. There we go. Johnny Hustler, thank you so much for the follow. Appreciate it. All right, time to get into the good stuff. Cheat time. That doesn't look too bad. Alright. We'll go this way with the nose. Boop. Boop. All right, we're getting there. We are getting there. And honestly, I think this will probably be the most difficult part for me to maintain, you know, like a discussion and all that kind of stuff. I think when I go into color it, it'll probably be a little bit more like how it was when I was penciling it. Alright, let me reload my brush, and that will probably be the last time I need to load my brush before we're done. Yeah, I'll probably start doing warm-up sketches again, especially now that I'm streaming. Might be a good way to kick off the stream. Alright, let's do this chrome dome. I mean, he's not literally bald, but functionally he is. Alright. That wasn't so bad. Now, traditionally, I would usually do Bruce's basically facial features on his mask in white paint. But I learned that that doesn't really play well with Copics. So I'm actually kind of inking them in here. Just leaving them as negative, kind of negative space. We're almost there. And the nice thing about the black cowl is you can kind of, you don't need to be quite as precious with his eyes, just because if you kind of splotch a line or whatever, it just kind of gets absorbed into the blackness of the cowl. So that's helpful. Kind of like that right there. Gotta do his little nose piece thing. Then the outline. Do his other ear. Well, that ear thing. Horn. Whatever you want to call it. And then, because he's gonna be just giving him a bat rope to be swinging off of, which actually this is not ideal to have it so close to the cape, but that's what I get for not penciling it in first. Ideally, you probably would have wanted it kind of coming out here. This is kind of close to being a tangent. I mean, you could argue that it is in fact a tangent, which you want to avoid. And we'll get his bat symbol taken care of. Alright, now I can kind of see that the horns on the bat symbol are a little too far to the right, so I'll just kind of account for that as I ink it. Kind of scoot them over a little bit. Alright, now we'll do what we call spotting the blacks, which is just coloring in the spots that we know are going to be solid black. Please, God, don't let this spill. I actually refilled these markers just last night, and I'm kind of worried that I may have overfilled them. And that would be real bad. Because it would just dump black ink all over this drawing. And we don't want that. So I'm actually doing this a little bit slower and more tenderly than I normally would, just because I'm a little bit worried about that. J.H. Castillo, thank you so much for following. I really appreciate it. Just in time to watch us kind of finish inking Bruce here. Alright, we're getting there. I keep saying that, but I'm getting kind of self-conscious, so I'm not talking a whole lot right now. But I just don't want to screw anything up. Oh, and the marker I'm using here, this is also a Copic, just one of their traditional dual tip markers, and it is the 110 Special Black marker, which I don't really know what makes it blacker than their 100 black, but I like my blacks to be as black as they can, so I was like, well, guess I'm going to use the Special Black, even if it's just a placebo effect. Gotta get in here on the little nose. All right. Circle, circle, circle to try and give it a more matte finish. All right. All right, there we go. Inked Bruce. Let me grab a piece of tape to keep him up here so y'all can look at that while I get another drink of water. And oh yeah, sorry, I did put the brush behind my left ear. I now realize that it was probably poking into the frame constantly. For that, I apologize for that. Actually, let me scoot this a little bit over. There you go. A little better shot. Again, while I get a drink of water and kind of reload and get ready to color this bad boy. Oh, goodness. This isn't even the most I've talked recently, but for some reason it's really kind of weighing on my throat. Oh, thank you so much, everyone. Road night. Yeah, man. Like, pick up that pencil. Like, one thing that's really important about art, just do it to enjoy it. Like, I'm really lucky that I'm able to make a living out of it. But even if I weren't, I'd still be doing it. Like, there are plenty of things I do for fun that I don't make a living off of. Like, I don't make a living off of playing Magic the Gathering with my friends. I don't make a living off of reading books, reading comics. I guess I kind of do off of reading comics. But, like, I see that a lot in social media and stuff. People talking about, like, oh, like we've kind of been conditioned to think that, like, oh, if we're not really good at something, we're kind of wasting our time with it. Also, I apologize. Like, I have no idea what your talent level is. I'm not trying to imply that you're not talented. Um, but yeah, I do think a lot of people are kind of dissuaded from engaging with arts and crafts and whatnot, um, because of their inability to maybe turn a profit with it. And that really bums me out. Have I ever considered making altered MTG card art? I've thought about maybe doing tokens, but never actually like altering cards. Also, I apologize. I just bumped my camera, so the screen might be wobbling. Um, yeah, I just don't know if there'd be a market for it. And unfortunately, to kind of go, that kind of contradicts what I was just saying. But because drawing and stuff is my job, I do have to be a bit more conscious about whether something might help expand my client base or whatever. All right, so now, oh, would I ever use the Avenged Juniors design in a comic? If Marvel actually approached me and wanted me to do that, I would. I don't think I would ever tackle it in just kind of like a free fan comic type thing. I mean, never say never, but I certainly don't have any plans on doing that. Um, I'm actually going to erase the underdrawing here, which normally I don't do. I actually like to keep the underdrawing because I just color everything digitally. But since we're coloring in person, the underdrawing would kind of get in the way. So I'm going to use my kneaded eraser to lift off all these pencil lines, which whatever. It's not. Which also hopefully doesn't pull up too much of the actual ink. Man, I haven't used a kneaded eraser since like college. Which has been something I keep talking about this stream. For those who are not aware, that would be a 10-year period. I was class of 2010. Attended SCAD in Savannah, Georgia. Savannah College of Art and Design in Savannah, Georgia from 2006 to 2010. But actually studied animation there, even though they had a comics program. I was kind of wanting to go into animation at that point in my life. But then I decided, you know what? I like comics way too much. So here I am. Oh yeah, I did a pretty good job. No, we still kind of have this line in here. I'm going to try and see if this will maybe help. A little bit. It's whatever. It's not that big a deal. Yes, we are, old Zach. Who is my favorite hero to draw? Honestly, it's probably Diana, probably Wonder Woman. At least in the context of JL8. My favorite character of all time is Spider-Man, and I definitely like drawing Spider-Man as well. He's really fun to draw. All right, so now, hoo boy, we're at the coloring stage, and this is a stage that I am very deeply unfamiliar with. So we're gonna learn this together, I guess. I guess the first thing that we'll do is land the grays of his suit. How does that sound? And all these markers I'm using are going to be Copics. I'm not going to go through all their different color names, mainly because I don't know them off the top of my head. But yeah, I kind of just went to a local art store. This time it was at Dick Blick. And just kind of grabbed colors I thought would work and tested them out on a little scratch pad until I landed on like, oh, okay, that kind of looks like what I think Bruce's base gray looks like or whatever. Actually, you know what? I think I might start with the chisel tip. Alright, so... oh boy, here we go. No turning back now. And for what I understand, it's kind of important to work in these sort of circular motions, because the way Copics operate, they can get kind of streaky, and the circles help sort of combat that a little bit. Copics are also transparent, so you can layer them, which is cool. I mean, for like really faint effects when it comes to just layering the same color on top of itself. But I'm hoping that when I actually go in with like the darker gray, this will help sort of create like a softer edge, as it were. All right, one leg down. This specific Copic is a pale lavender BV31. Because I do like Bruce's gray to be a little bit cooler than just like a raw, straight black and white type gray. So I decided to opt for this kind of almost like very light dull purple color. Because one thing about color, as anyone who remembers that like dress thing from a couple years ago where it was like, is it black and blue or is it gold and white? Color is super dependent on the other colors around it, and that really informs how your eye perceives it. So even though this looks pretty purple right now, when it gets juxtaposed with like the blues and everything, I think it'll read a lot better as just a kind of richer shade of gray. Alright. I don't know. Feels like this is actually coming together pretty well already. It's definitely a different experience, I'll tell you that much. But it's neat. You know, I've kind of been doing the same thing for, geez, almost 10 years now. It's kind of nice to mix it up a little bit. That being said, you will not see fully marker-colored JL8 updates in the future. That is definitely not happening. Although it would be cool, but I just think that would take way more time than it would really be worth. Alright. So we'll kind of do a little bit of that teeny tiny bit of that blending that we were talking about. Or not blending, but layering. Which, there is no way you can see this on the camera. I can barely see it here in person. And in fact, I might just be wasting my time, truthfully. But, you know, that's kind of like what this stream is about, is sort of learning new things. Alright. Also, this is what we call a local color approach to color, which is like, you color the rose red, you color the sky blue, you color the grass green. You know, it's kind of like natural light, as it were. Whereas, you know, you could do something with like a really cool color scheme. Bodino, thank you so much for the follow. Where maybe it's sunset and Bruce would be a lot more actually purple because, you know, he's got blues and stuff, and you mix that with the kind of like reddish light and it would kind of give that effect or whatever. But we're not doing anything quite that fancy here today. Alright, we'll do his skin tone next. Now let's get this going before it dries too much. Batman's are in our, yeah. Alright. I think this is the base blue. And honestly, like this blue is really light, but this is basically is like a highlight blue. So this isn't actually how it's gonna look at the end. But I kind of like the idea that Bruce's blue parts are a little bit more light sensitive than his like bodysuit, so it would have a greater range of values that would show through in light. Because you know, like certain things, even in the same lighting, will have much more prominent highlights than other things, just depending on like the material that they're made of, stuff like that. So I don't know if I really like the idea that like they're made of leather, just because I think it'd be kind of weird on an 8-year-old. But I know a lot of people kind of view like that was kind of the idea for the Batman animated series design, is the idea that like the black bits of Batman's costume were actually just black leather. So yeah, we're just kind of like layering in this base layer, and essentially we're going to be coloring it twice. Which is not the most efficient thing in the world, but I think it's going to give us the best effect. But I could also be totally wrong, because I am very new at this. Got a color in that diaper. And of course this is called Robin's Egg Blue, which I did not know when I bought it, but looking at it right now, perfectly suiting for the job we're doing right now. And I am using the fine tip to kind of create a little bit of a safe zone between the bigger areas and the finer line work. Which I think is pretty self-explanatory. I don't think any of you don't understand why I might be doing that. Alright, let's do this. Alright. It's actually going a little bit quicker than I was expecting, to be totally honest with you. Alright. Yeah. I was trying to decide if I want to do the interior of this cape this color as well. And I think I do. but I'm actually going to do it separately from his glove. I honestly can't really give you a great reason why. It just kind of feels right to me. And sometimes you gotta go on intuition, man. Like, you just gotta trust your gut. And kind of like I said, I mean, these markers are transparent. So if I really am not feeling this shade of blue for the interior of his cape, I can just color over it with a different shade of blue. Admittedly, I can't go any lighter. Like if I were like, oh man, I kind of wish it were a lighter blue. That's not happening. But I can always make it darker. Once we get all these base colors dropped in, I think it'll be a lot more interesting when we start going into like the rendering process of adding shadows and highlights and stuff like that. But I don't know. Maybe you guys are really digging this. I'm certainly not trying to be like super self-deprecating. Alright, just a few more. Alright, there's the blues. How do my Copics not bleed all over the place? I guess they're just not terribly full. I do know that you can overfill Copics, and that certainly causes issues with spillage and stuff like that. So I imagine that that's the only kind of special thing I've got going on here. Well, that's not great. I'm seeing that you guys are saying that there's like some lag between the audio and the video. I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure why that would be or how to fix it. Is it like super bad? Contributing plays. Thank you so much for joining the... I'm really sorry to hear that. I guess I'll have to try to look into figuring out how to deal with that later. Alright, so here we go. We're gonna go in with those darker colors now. Yeah, that adds a lot. I think right here, we're just going to cover all this with this darker blue, because no part of this would really be super well lit. Although maybe a little rim light on his butt. Yeah, it's pretty amazing how just even this one new tone really changes the feel of everything, the volumetricness and everything. Yeah, I should probably hit all this a second time. It's not getting quite as dark as I was thinking it would right off the gate. I hope everybody's been having a good weekend so far. I don't know how many of you have been having like an extended weekend because of Thanksgiving into Black Friday and all that stuff, but here in St. Louis the weather's at least been really nice. So that's been super pleasant. Who knows how much longer that'll last. So definitely been trying to enjoy that as much as possible before we lose it for however many months. Snom Juice, thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate that. I hope that you enjoy the stream. Yeah, that looks a lot better. So let's hit this with another coat. Hit his little scallops. Thumb. we go. Kind of wish I would have done white highlights the way that like a lot of manga does it. Toriyama does that a lot in his colored Dragon Ball illustrations. I always thought it was kind of cool. Maybe next time, because I'm pretty confident that we will be doing this more than once. At least I hope so, because I hope everybody's enjoying it. I know I've kind of petered out a little bit in terms of the chat engagement and stuff. I'll try to remedy that here shortly. And in this hand, because it's so far back, I'm not really expecting this to have much of the robin's egg blue highlight on it, period. Maybe a smidge. Because basically I'm treating the light source as though it's like coming from this way. Alright, let's hit that one more time, get it a little bit darker. Is lighting one of the first things I figure out when I'm drawing? Not so much. It's definitely the first thing you think about when you're coloring. Because I don't do a whole lot of rendering in my pencils and inks, by which I mean like I'm not inking like shadows and stuff like that. It's not something I really think a whole lot about. Am I going to be doing another round of commissions soon? Yeah, probably. I do think that there'll probably be what am I looking for here? It'll definitely be a slow turnaround time, just because I'm actually pretty backlogged on commissions currently, but I have had a lot of people asking about a fresh batch, so I think as long as people are comfortable waiting, I'll try to be accommodating. Alright, so let's get in here with these darker grays. There we go. Yeah, that adds quite a bit. Alright, let's give these legs some volume. Alright, this is starting to come together, I think. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Alright, we're gonna pull this down this way. And kind of like I said, since this arm is like behind him, it'll basically just be in shadow for the most part. Shadow being the darker values. These kind of shadows are always super tricky. I'm not 100% sure if this looks that great. I mean this arm shadow specifically, but I think it works well enough for what we're doing. Try and make this a little bit darker. Alright. Now it's time for another value of blue. I'll give this a little bit of a kind of like a drop shadow feel. I think this is far enough back where this would be more of this darker blue than it would any other blue. too. Finish these. All right, let's render out the utility belt. Oh yeah, draw along stream? Heck yeah. I'd love to do something like that. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I apologize if you guys have been asking these questions for a long time now and I've just sort of been ignoring them. I feel bad. I'm kind of in the zone here. But I need to be more aware of interacting with you guys, because that's the whole point. So I do apologize. But yeah, no, I would definitely be more than happy to do a draw along stream. I think, like I said, I think that'd be a lot of fun. I would probably just run a poll in regards to like what people would want to draw along, because not everything has to be Bruce. You know, if you want to do a draw along of a different JL8 character or another character entirely, you know, we would just try to figure that out. All right. Oh, I'm so glad you like the coloring books. Yeah, I was actually really proud of those with how they came out. I'd really like to do an actual physical one, but I don't know if that's going to be in the cards in the future or not. It's pretty nice letting people be able to like pay what they want. I'll definitely admit that. Whereas if I did a physical one, I would have to actually set like an MSRP, because it would actually cost me something to put it together, which I wish I were wealthy enough to be able to just do. I mean, I wish I were wealthy, period. But I wish I were financially able to just kind of do stuff purely philanthropically. But unfortunately, that's just not where I'm at currently. But thanks so much to all of you for, you know, helping out and helping me be able to do this full time. I mean, I can't really do it without an audience. So you all are super important. I'm actually wondering if I want to go as dark as this like cobalt blue, or no, Prussian blue that I have. You know what, I think I might at least do it here in Bruce's trunks. Kind of like the idea of them being a little bit darker. Yeah, I'm actually really feeling this. I think I'm gonna go in here and really punch some of these up. Which honestly might just kind of go in this way. I think I'll go smaller on these, almost like teal highlights. Yeah, I don't know how long this is going to take because I've never really done this before. So thank you so much for being patient with me. I think we're getting pretty close to. Yeah, I think this Prussian blue was the right call. We'll just get rid of that. I think maybe I'll hit the interior of the cape. And finally, well, finally for Bruce, I think we'll kind of... Edme Fee, thank you so much for the follow. Alright, well I think that does Bruce, so now it is time to lay in the background. Also, sorry for the crinkly. Oops. Oh. Oh. These are the markers I was going to use for that. Alright. How do I want to do this? This is basically meant to be like a cloud sky effect thing. I don't know if it's really working that well, but that's what I'm trying for. Just throwing a little border on there. Just to kind of frame it a little bit. And there we have it, guys. A complete Bruce illustration from start to finish. Let me scoot it over. Get it a little bit better under the camera. Yeah, these lights are kind of blowing the colors out a little bit. Let's see if I can also give it one of these. I wonder if maybe I tone the lights down a little bit, if that'd help show the color a bit better. Well, I really hope that you guys all enjoyed watching me work. Again, I do apologize that towards the end it was a little bit, I may have been a little bit on the distracted side, but man, this was a lot of fun, and I am so thankful that so many of you decided to come by. Yeah, I mean, we can definitely do a Q&A, and I mean, I also need to, excuse me, pick who ended up winning this bad boy. But, yeah, does anybody have any questions or anything that I maybe kind of missed the first time? How do I decide when to deadline and when to variable line? That really just kind of boils down to whether something is organic or inorganic to me. Like, I'll tend to go deadline on like metal, stone, brick, concrete, etc. Whereas I tend to go a live line on things like wood, the human body, fabrics, things that tend to move, really, I guess, is more accurate than just the organic component. Um, but yeah, hopefully that answers that question. Ugh. Do I have a favorite bat gadget? I mean, it's probably got to be the Batarang, right? I mean, as cool as they all are, the Batarang is, it's like the bat gadget. Although the bat grapple, particularly from the animated series, is pretty incredible as well. Other than Kevin Conroy, who's my favorite Batman, probably Val Kilmer. And I'm not even kidding. I unapologetically love Batman Forever. I think it's severely underappreciated. My favorite non-JL8 subject to draw, honestly, probably my friends. I really enjoy doing like caricatures and stuff of my friends. I like doing kind of like slice of life type comics, things like, you know, autobio type stuff. I just have always really enjoyed that quite a bit. How is what we saw similar to or different from the comic drawing process? That's actually a really good question. I'm not 100% sure how to answer that. I know how to answer it. I'm just not really sure how to explain it. And truth be told, my mind is a little on the fried side right now, so I don't think I'm really able to compose my thoughts quite as eloquently as I would like them to. I mean, the biggest one is just the fact that I colored it with markers, whereas when I do traditional comic work, I'm coloring it in Photoshop, which is just a very different. I mean, in theory, it's not that different, but in practice, it's quite a bit different. Oh, the villains in Batman Forever were Riddler and Two Face, Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones. Do I have I read any comics recently? Do I read any European? I'll admit European comics are kind of a blind spot to me. I certainly don't read nearly as many as I should. I'm hoping to change that in the near future. I mean, like obviously I read stuff like Mobius. I read Black Sad. Uh, I'm not as familiar with 1010 as I always like to be, but I think Hergé's art is incredible. Uh, yeah, it's definitely something I would like to explore more. In terms of the stuff I've been reading recently, is nothing new. I've kind of been going through a classic '90s X-Men binge, starting with issue 300, and I think I'm at like 325 now or something like that. Just because there's just a lot of really great art in there. There's also a lot of really bad art, but I mean, you got John Romita Jr., you've got Joe Madureira. Brian Hitch does an issue or two. Um, there are a few others in there that are quite good. Chris Bachalo ends up showing up, who I'm a huge fan of Chris Bachalo as well. So yeah, that's mainly what I've been reading recently. Thoughts on Saga? Yeah, I love Saga. I'm not as caught up on it as I need to be. I can't remember what the last volume I read was. I think it's the one. I'll be as vague about this as possible, but like where the will like really freaks out. You probably know what I'm talking about. Um, but yeah, no, it's a fantastic series. I've been a fan of it literally since issue one. I mean, issue one came out, I want to say my senior year of college, and my buddies and I were all Brian K. Vaughan fans, so we picked it up right out the gate. And I haven't kept up with it as steadily as I probably should have, but no, it's really great. And Ashley, my partner, is a big fan of it, so she uh, she usually gets like all the trade paperbacks, and then I'll read them. Do I like Hellboy or Mignola? Oh my God, yeah. I don't really want to screw around with my webcam, but I could turn it directly to the left, and you would see all my library editions and hardcovers of all of the Mignola stuff. I could look at Mike's work forever. I there there's nothing about it that doesn't appeal to me. I have not read through East of West. I started with East of. Oh yeah, I'll definitely do a studio tour someday. I've not read through East of West. I started reading East of West, and then I kind of. A lot of that happened around the time I started becoming a professional cartoonist, and much to my younger self's chagrin, it really is hard to stay on top of stuff like that when you're busy working on comics. Like I remember I used to read Wizard magazine as a kid, and I would read the interviews with like Romita Jr. or the Kubert brothers or whoever, and people would ask them like, "What are you reading?" They'd be like, "Oh, like I'm not reading anything," and I get really upset. Like, how could you not be reading something? You're a professional comic artist. But yeah, it's really hard to keep up on. Have I ever drawn Bruce in any of the other bat suits? I have actually. I've done him in the actual 66 outfit where it has like the yellow oval and the different belt buckle and stuff. I did a holiday themed, like Christmas themed illustration that just went up on the Facebook page. This was years ago, and you only see him from the back, but he was in the Batman animated series Arctic Freeze, costume where it's like white with like the red piping. Uh, he's been in the New 52 costume because there was a big JL8 arc about the New 52 outfits. Uh, I think that's it, but I could be wrong. You used Jim Lee's X-Men in the 90s when you first started learning to draw. Who did I look at when I first started? Mainly Ramita Jr. Ramita Jr. is definitely my my guy through and through. He was a huge influence on me. Maybe Carlos Pacheco a little bit. I don't know if I did that consciously, but like I had some adjectiveless X-Men issues that like where Iceman returns and they introduced Cecilia Reyes that I was a pretty big fan of. I'm sure I tried to copy some stuff out of there. Joe Mad, probably Jim Lee and like Eric Larson and Todd McFarlane, some of the Image guys, uh, stuff like that. As I got a little bit older, like Bone, Jeff Smith was a big influence on me. The Penny Arcade guys. I mean, Mike is the only one that draws, but he was a big influence on me. Uh, yeah, and then like as you get older, you just start grabbing everything that you see. Favorite non Bruce Bat family member? Definitely Dick Grayson. Both as Robin and Nightwing. I just think Dick Grayson himself is an incredibly interesting character. All right, well, before we forget, I'm really enjoying answering questions and stuff, but before we forget, we should probably figure out who this artwork is going to. And basically, excuse me, I'm just going to go on my followers list. I'm going to do my best to pick one out randomly. I'll announce it, and then I'll send that person. I believe I can send them a whisper to let them know in case like they're not still in the chat or anything like that. Um, and yeah, like I'll take care of shipping and all that stuff. So no worries about all that. So all right, here we go. And forgive my audio because my laptop is. I'll basically have my back to the camera, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to. Anyway, let me just do this. All right, so let's go to followers list. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure that like all the followers load before I start scrolling around randomly. I'd hate to have people basically not counted. Snom Juice, you are our winner. I'm not sure if you're still here in the chat, but you have won this finished artwork. So I have made sure to send them a whisper. I'm not sure if they're still in chat or not. But yeah, thank you so much to everyone for coming and hanging out. I'm happy to continue to hang out for a little while and continue to answer questions if you guys want to stick around. I just wanted to be sure to do that before I got all, I don't know, caught up in talking to people and then end up leaving without announcing a winner, and then have people think that I have people think that I scammed everybody. But yeah, I mean, like I said, this is a first stream, not the only stream, and going forward, I am going to start streaming during the week. Nothing super fancy, literally just having the camera on while I do my general work. So it'll vary between working on commissions, working on JL8, working on my creator owned project. So you guys can just come hang out, we can talk, you can watch me work, I can answer questions, we can build a little community, all kinds of good stuff. So, you know, I really look forward to that. My schedule should be listed on my channel page. Um, it's basically going to be, I want to say, 2 to 6 p.m. Central Time, Monday through Friday, but with the exception of Tuesday. And yeah, I mean, that's not super set in stone. That'll probably change over time. Um, but you know, baby steps, trying to get started. So hopefully that's gonna, kick off a fun adventure for us all. Yeah, thank you so much to everyone who stopped by. Again, I do apologize that I wasn't able to engage with chat as much towards the end. I'll probably try to figure out a way to put my laptop in a more eye line. Captain Crush, thank you so much for the follow. In more of an eye line where I can kind of just like look up and see it instead of turning to the right completely away from my work to see it. But but yeah, this was a ton of fun, and I'm great. It's awesome to see that people have been engaging with each other in chat while I've been busy coloring stuff. Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate it. I think I'm probably gonna get going now. I'm pretty thirsty. My feet hurt because I've been standing this entire time, and it's almost getting dark outside. So I'd like to get a little bit of that remaining sunshine before I call it a night. So again, thank you so much, everyone. I hope to see some of you around in the future. All right, guys.